on Israel. So first of all, we have to understand, how does Yom Tov Sheni work? Why is there Yom Tov Sheni? In the times of the temple, the first day of the Hebrew month was determined by the Beit Din Agadol in Yerushalayim. Whenever they would see, the witnesses would come and say they saw the new moon. So the Beit Din would decide that we know what day is Rosh Chodesh. Word did not reach those in Chutz La'aretz outside of Israel. However, until after the 15th day of the new month. Consequently, in Tishrei Nisan, those in Chutz La'aretz did not know when to observe Sukkot and Pesach. Since no Hebrew month could either exceed 30 days or be fewer than 29, every Hebrew month is either 29 days or 30 days. So therefore what? Therefore, Yom Tov could only be on one of two possible days, either the 15 days after the 30th day of the previous month, or 15 days after the 31st day of the previous month. Thus, this ultimately led to the enactment of 2 days of Yom Tov outside the land of Israel. The Gemara says that even though we have technically a calendar today, we still observe the second day of Yom Tov, even though there's no Beit Din. Because why? Because it says in the Gemara, heed the custom of your forefathers. Perhaps the government will make a decree, and people will come to make a mistake. The Gemara has explained that we might come to forget how to calculate the Jewish calendar, and therefore we always need to keep the custom of keeping 2-day Yom Tov. Okay. Fine. So we're up to Ben Chutz La'aretz visiting Eretz Yisrael in Yom Tov. One who comes from outside of Israel to visit Israel with the intention to live in Israel must keep 2 days of Yom Tov, just like he would an outside of Israel. What if you decide to move to Israel? 32. Essentially, once a person makes a final decision to live in the land of Israel, he can start keeping 1 day Yom Tov. In the case where he has an extended stay in Israel, or he's visiting Israel but cannot leave until a certain amount of time, he should ask an halachic authority. The subject is very complicated. Each case has many factors to consider. Usually what happens is a lot of boys go to yeshiva in Israel and they stay there for a whole year. And they want to know, can I keep 1 day Yom Tov? We're going to learn later that potentially they have a leniency of if they would get married and they would live in Israel and they would stay, then technically they have a status of a person who lives in Israel and they can keep 1 day. But if they wouldn't entertain such an idea, they're considered outside of Israel and they have to keep 2 days. A person who's already married, he has to live in Israel minimum for the 3 holidays and own real estate there, and go into that real estate every 3 Shalosh Regalim. And then even though he lives most of the year outside of Israel, he's considered a Ben Israel for regards to the holidays, and he can keep 1 day as well. But you see, it's not so simple. Just because you're in Israel for a long time doesn't make it that you're Ben Israel. It has to be that you want to live there or have potential to live there. 33. One who visits Eretz Yisrael for all of the 3 Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, every year, must only observe 1 day of Yom Tov when he's in Israel. If he happens to spend one of the holidays in Chutz La'aretz, he has to keep Yom Tov Sheni when he's Chutz La'aretz. 34. If a Ben Chutz La'aretz, a guy from outside of Israel, decides that on the second day of Yom Tov he will permanently reside in Eretz Yisrael, according to many poskim, he can stop keeping second day Yom Tov even in the middle of the day. 35. A Ben Chutz La'aretz, a guy from outside of Israel, can decide to move to Israel during Chol HaMoed, and he will only keep 1 day Yom Tov on the last day of Chag. Okay, 36. An unmarried, generally speaking, an unmarried Ben Chutz La'aretz who visits Eretz Yisrael for a short amount of time and intends to return to outside of Israel, he remains a Ben Chutz La'aretz. However, if he settles in Israel and is financially independent, he becomes Ben Eretz Yisrael immediately. Many early authorities say the debate about an unmarried, financially dependent Ben Chutz La'aretz who goes to Israel to study for extended period of time. Let's say you have a financially dependent, so he relies on his parents' money, and he went to Israel he's not married, he went to Israel to study yeshiva. What do we do with him? According to Ashkenazi authorities, such a person must observe Yom Tov Sheni. Some Sephardic opinions rule that he must observe only 1 day Yom Tov. In all cases, one must ask a halachic authority, because a lot of factors are involved, like the length of his trip, his age, his parents' consent. But you should know that even according to the Sephardic authorities, a Ben Chutz La'aretz who's engaged to a girl residing in Chutz La'aretz and decides to study in Eretz Yisrael to his wedding must observe Yom Tov Sheni if we live in Chutz La'aretz after his wedding. But the footnote over here, they say that the Marachida, I believe, says that if he's likely to get married and then he'll stay in Israel, he's considered Ben Eretz Israel. So it has to be, that's what we follow, yeah. It has to be that you have potential, you would entertain the idea of getting married in Israel. That gives you a status of a single boy who can keep one day of his in Eretz Israel. I see a lot of people, they say, yeah, we're in Israel, we keep one day, that's it, finished. Everybody else keeps one day, I also want to keep one day. And they don't think that there's certain criteria you have to fulfill, and you could be doing a sin of breaking second day Yom Tov. So, yeah.
What do you live during the summer in Israel? Winter, he comes to Ustaz.
Okay, so if it's a single guy,
Yeah.
so one of two ways he can get status of Israeli. Either he goes three holidays, Shavuot, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot. If he doesn't go then the only thing is that if he would be open to the idea of getting married and staying there. So if he has one of those two things, then he could be considered Israeli to keep one day. 39. When Yom Tov Sheni falls out on Shabbat, a Ben Chutz La'aretz may fulfill his obligation of lighting Shabbat and Yom Tov candles through the lighting of a Ben Eretz Israel. Even though the Ben Eretz Israel will not be lighting for Yom Tov, he'll only be lighting for Shabbat, that's fine. Okay. Ben Chutz La'aretz, a guy who is living outside of Israel, he visits Israel for the holidays. He has to pray the prayers of the holiday. He has to pray. Everyone else, all the Israelis will be praying weekday, and he'll be praying. He has to pray holiday prayers, and he may do so with a minyan of Bnei Chutz La'aretz. If he prayed a weekday prayer by accident, he must pray again unless he recited Ya'aleh V'yavo. Can you? Let's say a bunch of Americans. 9 Americans found each other and they said, let's go make a minyan to pray the holiday prayers, your second day Yom Tov. And they need one guy for minyan. So what they do, let's go get one Israeli. Even though for him it's a weekday, but for us it's a holiday. Ben Eretz Israel may not be included in the minyan for Yom Tov Sheni Tefillah. Instead, those from Chutz La'aretz should pray individually. They should pray alone if they don't have a minyan. But usually if you know you're going to be in Israel for a holiday and you have to keep 2 days, you got to find out where there's a minyan for Americans, because you got to pray with those people in minyan for the holiday prayers. But if not, better you should pray by yourself than to make a minyan with Israelis. Okay, good. Ben Eretz Israel who's visiting Eretz Israel may ask a Ben Eretz Israel, Ben Chutz La'aretz may ask a Ben Eretz Israel to perform Melacha on Yom Tov Sheni even directly. You hear this? So American guy is in Israel, and he's keeping 2 second day Yom Tov, and he sees an Israeli who the Yom Tov for him is over, you're allowed to ask him to do Melacha for you, even directly. Even though from the poskim who forbid to do so, most agree that if the Ben Eretz Israel performed the Melacha, you may benefit from it. A Ben Chutz La'aretz cannot ride a car or a bus in Israel on Yom Tov Sheni, because it is considered breaking Shabbat, breaking Yom Tov, and you have since you have to keep second day Yom Tov, you're not allowed to go onto public transportation or any type of transportation. Baruch Amen.